Have you ever heard the expression, oh, you got taken to the cleaners? Well, I did, except I drove there myself. Yeah, it was inspection time here. Had to get Ginger inspected. Now, we have these things in New York State called inspections. You have to do them every year. Your car has to pass emissions testing and has to pass safety testing. All right. Usually it's not a big deal because the place that I go to, generally the safety check is, it looks like a car. So that passes automatically. And as far as the emissions testing, there's no way out on that. Now, if you recall, Ginger is a 2003 Toyota Camry that happens to have the V6. I used to have old Clanky, which was an '02 Toyota Camry, but that was a four-banger. Old Clanky had a persistent P0420 check engine light. Well, Ginger didn't used to have that, but now does. I didn't learn my lesson from the first time. I had read on a forum somewhere that the emissions testing on the ECM on the computer was too strict. And because of that, it often falsely will call out problems like that. And allegedly, there is a firmware update for the car. Remember, this was 2002, 2003, so it doesn't go over the air. You'd have to go to the dealer. Here we are in 2025. Do they even have anything that could still program an old car like that? Probably not. I don't know. Or would they have ever heard of said firmware? Can they download it, get it? Did they have a dick smart enough to install it? Probably not. So, non-issue on that. I just have to live with it. So, Old Clanky's been gone, we know. And Ginger actually had two, which I've both been ignoring because I have ways around these things. The first one is I think it was like P0156 evaporative emission control system. It says very small leak. All right, well, if it's very small, I'm not going to worry about it. When it says it's bigger and it's a different code, then I'll worry about it. But of course, it causes no drivability issues or anything like that, so I really don't care. But that light, that check engine light, has to be off in order for the car to pass emissions. The other one Ginger has is not P0420, but P0430, which is exactly the same as P0420, but for the other bank because it's a V6. Essentially, same code. Okay, so my regular routine when I have to get it inspected is go out to the car, gas tank between 3/4 and 1/4, anywhere in between there is fine. Ice cold engine, hook the scan tool up, and reset it. Now you have to wait for the readiness monitors to come online. That's the whole thing that prevents you from resetting the check engine light on your car and immediately getting the car inspected and passing, and then it comes back anyway. But if you wait for the readiness monitors to come back online, then you're okay. And if you catch it at the right time, here in New York, you are allowed one readiness monitor to be incomplete and still be able to pass emissions. That hasn't caused a problem, even though there's two separate systems being called out and two separate tests for those. There is the evap system test and the catalyst monitor test. So if I catch it right in between that, it's good. And normally what I would do is I'd go out, ice cold engine, 3/4 to 1/4 fuel tank. I leave all accessories off, the fan, the blower fan, the no AC, radio off, everything just off, just car as car, and just drive. And I reset it, immediately start it up, and get going immediately. In the time it takes me to get to the repair place or the place that does the inspection, which is back where I lived when I was a kid, it's about 15 miles or so out there. And usually about halfway into that trip or so, I have the scan tool still hooked up and I keep checking it like every traffic light. And it's ready. There is one readiness monitor not complete. No check engine light. Everything is good to go. And if I get it inspected at that second, it'll pass. But last year, when I went to get it inspected, same story, same code, same everything. I drove out there, and halfway into the trip, it wasn't ready. Keep going, keep going, keep going. 3/4 of the way there, not ready. Okay, next traffic light. Oh, okay, good. It's ready. Thank God. Let's go. We got to get there. We got to get this shit inspected. And I pull into the lot and I immediately shut it off. Because the less time it spends running, the less time it's testing things to find out that perhaps there's a problem which might blow the light, as I call it. And that's that. Why don't I just get these things fixed? Well, that costs money. And quite frankly, it affects nothing. It's just EPA bullshit. Catalytic converter not, below 95% efficiency. Do you ever put in 100% in a day? I definitely put in at least 107% a day when I'm doing shit, but there's some days where I'm not, and I put in, 15%. I just don't, but if I got a job to do that day, something, I'm putting the full 107% into that. So if it's running at just below 95%, it's still doing pretty good. If you got a 93 on a test back in the day, that wasn't too shabby. Wasn't as good as you could have done, of course, but it wasn't shabby at all. Still an A. So what's wrong with that, right? And as far as the evap, with the amount of fuel that people spill at gas stations on a daily basis, we should be more concerned about that than cars farting out a little gasoline vapor bubble. Okay? So there's that. That's why it doesn't get fixed. It's all expensive stuff, and there's no reason for it to be fixed. Now, I do have this other thing looming, which is kind of a good thing and kind of a really hurts me thing. When a car in New York reaches 25 model years or older, it is now exempt from emissions. So at that point, it doesn't matter if the check engine light is on, because they're not testing for emissions. Okay. Now, here's the problem. The WIF used to have a 2000 Camry, but that was destroyed in an accident. Video is called Real Emergency, but the dash cam saves the day. Link in the prescription. That was bad, that one. That car actually was different as far as emissions and that go, because there's another stipulation with the emissions that cars up to, it was either 2000 or 2001, can have 2 readiness monitors not ready and still be set to get the emissions tested and pass. And that car also had a P0420 code, along with a couple of others that, again, didn't affect anything. So, again, it was the same story. I'd reset it and drive out there, and they'd test it. Everything was good, and it would go. And this year being 2025, that car would no longer need emissions testing. But because it was destroyed, and the 03 Camry is in there, it's going to take 3 more fucking years now until 2028, because you include this year. So it's actually 2 more times I have to do it. So in 2028, it will no longer need that. And it can only have 1 readiness monitor not ready and still pass emissions. So anyways, last year, like I was saying, it took a lot longer for the readiness monitors to come up. And then indeed I did get the inspection and everything was fine. They put the sticker on the windshield like we do here. And you're on your way. And, you know, a short time later, the check engine light comes back and you know what it is and you're good. This year, I drove out there and we're halfway. Check the scan tool. No good. 3/4 of the way there. Check the scan tool. No good. We are 9/10 of the way there. Check the scan tool. No good. We are there. Check the scan tool. No good. Not ready. The readiness monitors are not coming up. Now, I have a theory on this. I don't know if it's correct. Pardon me. It may be ambient temperature related. And of course, the car knows that by the air intake temperature coming in. So it knows the approximate outdoor temperature. This was in January of 2025, so just very recently. And we had a cold snap, as I'm sure many others across the U.S. have had during that time. It was like really damn fucking cold. Really, really cold. Did that exacerbate all of these problems or something? I don't know. Or delay the tests from completing? Probably. I don't know. So it wasn't ready by the time we got there. Okay, that's not good. What do we do now? Well, I guess we'll drive around for a bit. So I went up the next block and went, and there's a little circuit, quote unquote, that I can do that's about 3 miles around. So I drove around that circuit, and each time I drove around the circuit, checked the scan tool, not ready. So I drove around that about 3 times. That's not ready yet, and I said, this is not good. The wife was with me because she reads the scan tool, so I know when it's time. I said, all right, well, I don't know what else to do except to keep driving. So maybe we will drive to our old apartment, which is 2 towns away. Just drive past, see if anything changed. So we did that. We went down there. There's a little corner flower shop that 22 to 23 years ago, we bought a big picture, painted picture, that's on the wall over my video editing rig. We turn the corner. Not only is the store still there, but the same lady is still there. She hasn't changed one bit. And we saw her. I said, you know, one day we got to just stop in and take a picture of the picture, like on the phone, and just say, 23 years ago, you sold us this picture, and I just want to tell you how much we still like it. We moved out of here years ago, and this and that, but, you know, maybe buy some flowers from her or something, and that was that. You know, just to make nice. It'll make her feel good anyway, right? So we drove past there. We drove past the old apartment. The owners at the time that we were there have been long gone. Somebody else bought the house. They're gone. And now somebody else. And basically the house has been left to rot. In other words, nobody's kept up with it. Landscaping is looking shabby. I know it's the winter and that, but, you know, it just was nothing. So we kind of drove around a little neighborhood there where we used to live. And we drove back to where the inspection place was. Still not ready. Did the circuit 3 more times. Still not ready. Okay, let's start driving, I guess, back home, but we'll take a different way. So in the event it comes online like immediately, maybe I could just double back quick and get it done. So we kind of start going that way, and now I'm looking at the clock, and I'm like, this ain't going to work. And the reason I say that is the way this place operates, if you get there before they open and say, hey, I just need an inspection. Hey, I just need an oil change. Just real quick stuff, rotate the tires. Real simple, quick stuff. Nothing that they have to diagnose or really get into or anything like that. For the first hour, hour and a half, they generally take those, and then they kind of get started on the cars that are on the lot. And I'll change the alternator on that Buick. That one needs a radiator. That Cadillac, and the Dodge needs a starter. Oh, the Kia, yeah, that needs brakes and whatever else, shit like that. So they do whatever other jobs. And I'm sure there's people popping in throughout the day and stuff. Can you fill my tires up? Or get okay, and they do, little things. And anyway, we ended up coming back home. Scan tool says not ready. I think I fucked the story up because I forget when this happened. I forget if it was the first. Yeah, it was the first day. So I fucked the story up. Okay, so reiterating the beginning of the story very quick because it's a real quick thing is halfway to 3/4 of the way, 2/3 of the way there. System's ready. Awesome. Okay, good. Where everything's on target. We'll go to the place. We'll get it inspected. It'll pass. We'll be on our way. Not 5 minutes later, the check engine light is staring me in the face. It fucking came back that fast. Never had that happen. Never had that happen. So I pulled over to the side of the road, reset it quick, and kept driving. And of course, with everything I just told you, going to the apartment and all that stuff, it didn't reset. So I said, okay, so now we're kind of stuck in limbo because I don't know how far along the process it's gotten to reset the readiness monitors. It's gone. And I don't know if you can just reset it now, if that resets that. It probably does. But do I start over or do I continue on? Because it's, I've already been driving. All told, that trip out there to the apartment and back and then all the way back home was 3 hours. The car ran for 3 hours solid. Okay? I never even shut it off. So we just kept going and going and going and going. The next day, we go out and try this shit again. We drove for 3 more hours. Car is not ready. This has never happened before. Ever. Like I said, it's usually reset it halfway into that 15-mile trip or so. It's ready. This was 6 hours of driving now. So I said, well, we still got a few days left in the month, so I guess take it to work, whatever. So she drives it to work and back. No check engine light. Car is not ready. The next day, she's got to work. She does that. Car is not ready. She goes to the bagel place, which is just a little bit of a drive out. It's not like right up... We got one right up the block, but this other place, the bagels are phenomenal. And we're talking New York bagels. The bagel capital of the world. So, yeah. So we go there. She goes there. She comes back. We have breakfast. I said, I'm going to go see what the car says. And I plug in the scan tool. It's ready. Okay, now I have a real problem. because if I go back out to the place I normally go to, there's a very good chance it's going to blow the light on the way there. Can't do that. I need to find a closer place. So one place I called, first place I called, I said, listen, I need an inspection. And I told him this, I was up front. I said, listen, I got that persistent P0420 code. So I drove the car. The readiness monitors are okay. It's ready for inspection, but the light hasn't come on yet. So I need you to do that quick. Oh, well, I got to do a safety inspection also. So I got to put the car up on a lift. All right, listen, I understand that. That's your job. I get that. That's okay. Yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull it in and I'm going to leave it running while it's up on a lift, and I'll pull your wheels off and check everything, and then I'll put everything back, let the car down, and if the light still isn't on, then you're going to pass, you know? I said, why would you possibly leave the car on while it's up on the lift? This is something we got to do, sir. I've been in the business 40 years. I said, well, I think you better go over your fucking safety policies, because that's a safety issue. If you got a mechanic and he's got a gun on the front wheel, pulling that off, and for some reason the car jumps out of park. Remember, that happened once with my Edger, and I almost got killed, okay? Cars do jump out of park. It certainly is possible. It can happen. Do you want the fucking wheel to send this guy through the fucking wall? I said, that's a safety issue. I said, I wouldn't bring the car to you just for that. So he was a no-go. Called another place. Oh, I got to do the safety and this and that. And I explained the story. He didn't say leave it running, but, you know, I'm like, okay, I mean, you know, can you do it today? No, I mean, you got to come in like on Wednesday. I can make an appointment for, fuck you. You know, I don't have, come on. I call the third place. I've been past this place a million times, and it's right here. So I called them up. I'm fucking desperate. I said, listen, I got a big problem. And I told him the story. I said I drove for 6 hours, and finally the fucking thing is ready. Okay, let's just pause for a second and we'll think about that. I don't know how to calculate this. I'm sure the eco-Nazis do. How much in the way of tailpipe emissions did I put out on the car to pass this stupid test? How much did I pollute the environment just to make this work? Don't blame me for that. You have to blame the EPA, because they put this shit in place. Otherwise, nobody would be doing this. And I'm certainly not the only one. So that is another problem that they created by putting this shit in place. Now, on the flip side, I'm also not against inspections. Ever hear of a channel called Just Rolled In? And see the Bluetooth control arms and the cracked frames that are put back together with spray foam? And all kinds of crazy shit like that? Yeah, I don't want to be driving behind a car that is going to lose its rear end, that I will then crash into and destroy my car, and they did nothing, and they just carry on driving like this with no rear end. You know, it's actually a double-edged sword. Okay, so I like the fact that it's there, but I also don't like the fact that it's there. Well, it ended up biting me in the ass. I called this third place, right? And I told the guy the story. He was very receptive on the phone. And he says, all right, listen, we can handle this. It's no problem. I do have to put the car up on the lift and check everything out. I'm not going to leave it running. I don't know who that guy was, but that is completely retarded. There's no way you would do that unless you need the vehicle running for some reason to do check for exhaust leaks or something, just something. There's no reason for it to be running up on the lift. It definitely could be a safety issue. I said, okay, good. Can you do it today? Nope. How about tomorrow? I'm actually kind of booked up. How's Tuesday next week? It was like Friday. I said, well, it's 3 days away. I mean, listen, if you're saying you can do this, I'm desperate, so I'll wait. Okay. Everything is all set. So I have the appointment. Everything's good. And it's that morning. So I go out a little early. I plug the scan tool in just to double check. 100%. Everything is ready. No check engine light. Everything is good to go. We're all set. It was 13 degrees out. So I put the key in. I get the lights turned on. I turn the key, and sure enough, it's a Toyota, so it started right up. Got you going there. Actually, what really happened was it started right up so well that it was like it was 70 degrees out. It didn't even crank slow. I was fucking amazed. I was like, really? Wow. And this battery is quite a number of years old. Holy shit. I'm impressed. All right. So car says 13 degrees. Turn the key. It starts up. No check engine light. We're all set. I felt so fucking bad doing this. Oh my God. I felt so bad, but I was just in such a pickle. I had to. Car's running. I immediately put it in drive and start going. I don't let the engine warm up. I don't let the windows defrost. I could see out of them enough. So, but I don't like doing that. They say, oh, you only have to let your car run for about 10 or 15 seconds and then you can just take right off. No. Okay? No. No, no, no. First of all, if you got shit on the windows that needs to defrost, you're waiting for the car to warm up. With that aside, if it's clear, and indeed you could just start it up and go, no. If you absolutely must, because grandma broke her leg, and you're rushing her to the hospital, listen, you got an emergency on your hands, and you got to take whatever steps are necessary to get this taken care of, okay? Something like that. Well, this was kind of an emergency. But in this case, there was no actual emergent issue in the fact that I could take my time getting there. So what I did do is I took it real easy on the car. I kept the revs below 2,000 RPM. And you did see cars sometimes that would get up to almost 2,000 RPM on a really cold day and stay there for a while. So 2,000 is about a safe zone, but I did not rev it beyond that. And the place is really not far. So by the time I got to the place, the temperature gauge, I think, went up like 1 tick, and there's 6 of them. Engine's still ice cold. Good. I get there, appointment at 8. It's 7:40. Okay. It's 13 degrees out, and I'm not leaving the car running. It was cold. It was cold. I did put on my heated vest from China, but I actually never turned it on. I was actually fine enough with just that under my regular coat. It's after 8, and now they stroll in. Okay, I'm not complaining. They're doing me a service. It's fine. Well, finally, the guy says, yeah, let me open everything up. Just give me a minute, and then you can come in and warm up. Well, of course, they don't. It's the shop. They don't leave the heat on overnight, so it's still cold in there. But it's at least it's not outside. So I go in. Okay. What do you need? I called you a few days ago about the inspection. You gonna leave the car? No, we talked about that on the phone. You said that you'd do it while I waited. Oh, I don't know. I said, listen, we got an appointment set. Check your book. Oh, yeah, no, you're right. Okay, sorry. That's okay. I mean, he hasn't had his coffee yet. I'll give him that, right? So, yeah, we're just opening everything up. Give us a little time. I said, there is no rush. You take your time. Okay. He takes the keys, and I'm waiting. 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 And they take the car in, and I'm waiting. So he comes to me maybe 45 minutes later, and he says, okay, listen, we looked at the car, and we did the safety part of the inspection, and you got 2 issues. What could possibly be wrong? What the fuck? Your power steering hose is leaking. I said, yes, it's a Toyota, and it's very common for those to leak. I'm sure you know that. That can't be leaking as per the inspection. Shit. He's right, because I read that. You can't have the power steering leaking. Now, the leak is on the order of... I've had the car for 5 years, 4 or 5 years, and I have never even needed to top it up. It's just barely seeping. So I'm like, all right, listen, if you got to fix that, you know, I'm saying, how much could this possibly cost, right? They got to get something for my trouble. All right. I'll deal with that. That's fine. All right, so go ahead. Your rear brakes, pads down to about 10%. Nope. Mm-mm. I don't think so, guy. What do you mean? I had those brakes done in February of 2024. 11 months ago. He says, no, it's down. That's strange. I don't get that. Why would that be? I had a video on Ginger's brakes. And indeed, the back brakes were bad. Now, I'm a brake schmidt now, but I wasn't then. I attempted to be one, but I couldn't break the damn bolts loose no matter what, including my fucking impact gun. That couldn't get the shit off. So I said, I don't know what else to do. I can't do it. So it was a whole shit. I drove out to Julio, had to take his van. There's links to all this shit in the prescription. Okay, it was a shit show to say the least. Julio had replaced front brakes and back brakes, front rotors, and rear calipers. Not rear rotors and not front calipers. He told me that I needed front rotors. And I said, okay. And he showed it to me. And I said, you're right. I need front rotors. Okay. And I had to take his van and go to the auto parts store and get, it was a shit show. An absolute shit show. Anyways, I said to the guy, "You're kidding me," because I had that done. I said, "I have a video." He says, "I believe you. But that's what it is. Do you want to see it?" I said, "Yes, I would, please." So he took me in the shop. And this I appreciated. Because most places, oh, we can't have customers in the shop. It's against insurance regulations. No, it's not. That's bullshit. That is total bullshit. Okay? It's not against insurance regulations. The insurance is there, so if somebody, and it doesn't matter if it's the owner of the place, a mechanic that works for him, or a customer, or even a fucking horse, okay, if that lift fails and the car goes, you know, that's what the insurance is for. Or if the car falls off a lift and hurts somebody, kills somebody, that's what the insurance is for. So as far as customers aren't allowed in the shop, that's bullshit. And if you ever get that from any kind of mechanic, go somewhere else. This guy was honest, and he took me in the shop, and the guy showed me. The mechanic was white. I have never had a white mechanic before. I'm saying nothing more about that, except that I have never had a white person work on my car. I'll leave that kind of right where it is, okay? Anyways, he showed it to me, and sure enough, that pad was fucking worn. In fact, let's take a break, and I'm going to show you the rotors and the pads. So here we go. Okay, so here are the parts. I apologize, it's windy today, so yeah. We're going to start with the rotors. And you're going to see it's got a ridge and a ridge, and this side isn't much better. There's ridges, but go away. So that was on the passenger side. Side, I mean the captain's side, yeah. The captain's side, it's bad. It's definitely bad. Now, why you can't put a cheek poker on that and clean it up a bit, I don't know. The other side, ooh yeah, that's really horrible. So they certainly weren't bullshitting in that regard. They did say the pads were quite worn, and I didn't like that kind. I didn't get the brake pads that I wanted when Julio did the work, so I guess that was for the best, but I certainly didn't get them this time either. These are Pro Spec Plus by Bendix. It says Ultra Premium brake pads, engineered to OE specifications. Doesn't say anything about ceramic, which is what the old ones were. Copper-free and low copper formulations. Yeah, there's nothing fucking premium about this shit. They're just plain old. So here are the old ones. I don't know which is which from what. But, yeah, that is indeed pretty fucking worn down now, isn't it? So, one. This still had meat. That could have gone. This still had meat. That could have gone. And that still had meat. So it was just the one side, so it really didn't necessarily need rear brakes, but you don't just do one and not the other, so it kind of has to be done that way. So I got 3 good brake pads in the event, and I can always check that in the future if I need. So I'll hang on to these, but of course get rid of the rotors because those are no good. So that was kind of the story with the parts, and now I'll tell you more. I think he lied about, you know, the pads being like 80% on one side and one pad on the other side was 10%. It was more like 7%. Yeah, it was fucking worn. What happened was you saw the rotors, and they never said you need to replace your rear rotors. Now, first thing is there was a lot of rust. Forgetting the ridges in that, on the actual mating surface of the pad to the rotor, there was still rust there. And that was interesting because I would have thought that would have scraped off from the friction. Apparently it didn't. Now, why only on that one side? Well, you saw that rotor, and that had to be from the captain's side rear. And the reason is that was the one that was causing problems to begin with. But Julio never said, oh, you need rear rotors also, or screw the front ones, you just need rear ones. All right, I mean, I kind of... I didn't know it looked that bad. Never saw it, you know. So what happened was the rotor chewed up the new brake pad. And as I said, showing you the parts, it's you don't do just one side. You can, but you don't. Just don't. Okay? So end result was, he says, we have to do the brakes, and we have to fix the power steering leak. I said, okay, but the problem is we don't know about the emissions. Now, like I said, the car's ready for that, but it has to be able to pass that. He said, well, I can't pass the car because of the brakes and the power steering. I said, listen, I'll make this easy for you, okay? I will pay and have you fix the brakes and fix the power steering. But I need you to run the car first and make sure the emissions passes. I got to talk to the mechanic about that. What? So he comes back and he says, all right, what I need to do is run the car and fail it for safety because the brakes and the power steering. But after you have that done, I can run it again and then it will pass because that's been fixed. I said, but I need to know about the emissions first. Talks to the guy again, comes back and he says, okay, so what we're going to do is this. We're going to run the inspection, and we're going to go through the emissions part of it, and if it passes, it passes. If it fails, it fails. But when it gets to the safety portion, it's going to fail. I said, right, that's the problem. I said, listen, I will pay you up front now for the job if you can tell the computer, yes, everything's good. And you're going to do the work anyway. Okay, nobody's getting cheated here. We're just advancing this in the system. That's all. No can do. I said, well, I'm just going to have to take the car back. What else am I going to do? So finally, he said, all right, so we'll go and we'll run the emissions and fail it. And the mechanic tells me that when the same car comes back, it's going to kind of pick up where it left off at where the failure was and allow him to correct that. So he actually had to run the inspection twice, but the emissions only once. He said it'll save that data, so it doesn't need to do that again. And then, now that everything has been fixed, everything is legit. I said, okay, listen, if you have to do this for the fucking bureaucratic assholes and that, that's fine. As long as it's going to pass emissions. All right, I'll tell him to go do that. Hey, Jimmy, go and do the emissions on that. 10 minutes later, good news, it passed. Oh, thank fuck. Oh, thank fuck. Great. Okay, go. How much? Remember what I said about being taken to the cleaners? Yeah, like I said, I drove myself there. That's what happened. Sorry, just had to change the battery on the camera. Anyways, we got down to brass tacks, and I said, listen, I have no problem with this. I'm not happy with the circumstances, but I will say that you were extremely honest through this entire process, and I greatly appreciate that. Oh, well, we try, you know. Yeah, that's all any mechanic really has to do is just try, but they don't, purposely. So they were very honest, and there was a white guy working on the car. I think that means something. I guess. I mean, I don't really have another choice, so go ahead. I said, the only problem I got is that I don't have that kind of cash on me now. And you have this stupid credit card fee shit. And you also have it for debit cards. So I can't pay this now without incurring that fee. Well, I can't release the car to you unless you pay in full. I said, I get that. Well, I mean, let me work it up for you. So he punches it up in the system. It was going to be something like $16. I said, can you just knock 16 bucks? I mean, is it really going to hurt that bad? So, well, I got to see, you know, oh, I'm allowing for that, you know, kind of shit like that. It was, that was from I Love Lucy, by the way, where she got new furniture. Anyways, one of the things that was on the bill that mysteriously disappeared to help with the price was the power steering fix. The power steering fix was going to be $63 for a hose clamp. That's that's $3 for the clamp and $60 to put it on. I think he knew full well that I knew that it's not going to take $63 to replace that hose clamp. So he took the $60 off. That left me with a $3 hose clamp. That is still highway fucking robbery. But it's only $3. So anyway, we came to an agreeable price. Everything passed. And that was it. All of this could have been prevented if that dick didn't decide to run the red light and destroy the 2000 Camry. Actually, it still would have happened because I would have had to get the 03 inspected anyway. But still, it really pisses me off that that accident kind of reset the clock. I am still... That case has been settled. And if anybody is really interested in all the gory details of that, I'll be happy to tell that story. I even have further footage from the dash cam, which is absolutely disturbing, that I can include in that, if anybody is interested. So I'm putting the feelers out there on that, but if you want to see that, let me know, and I'll give you a good idea of what went down. I'm not going to give any specific numbers. There was a lawsuit involved, and of course, we did win that because we were not at fault, and that's that. But there's a lot more to the story that I didn't tell you in that real emergency video. The whiff wasn't exactly fine, but everything is okay now, so that's the main thing. Anyways, the clock was kind of reset on that, and that really, really pisses me off because you can't even sue for that. That is an intangible thing that I lost in that accident, and there is no recuperating it. You know, you could lose an arm in an accident. You can't get that back, okay? You can sue for that, and you'll have a prosthetic thing and use that, and it's going to suck, and you get used to it, and it still is going to suck, but even so, that was an intangible thing that I could not even sue for. And it still pisses me off. So I only got to do this 2 more times. Now, let's wind the clock forward a little bit. It has been about 3 weeks since this happened. The check engine light has not come back. Just saying, it has not come back. The readiness monitors are all ready. Everything is complete. The car is as good as brand new with everything going for it and ready to pass inspection at any time. Why did it give me all of these problems to precipitate all of this bullshit? The only factor at play was the weather and the extreme cold. So we're going to chalk it up to that because I have nothing else to go on. And if I recall, maybe I'll have to look up the weather from last year, find like an archive or something, and see what the weather was throughout January. And if it was frozen out, then that might explain why it took so much longer for the car to be ready last year, which I should have seen coming. But anyway, that was the story with that. It was such bullshit and costly. But at the end of the day, okay, I like that I had a white person work on my car. Not because he's white, he just happened to be white, but because he did a good job. Okay? That's all I'm saying there. Okay? I like that. I didn't like the price, but I also didn't have a choice. And another thing that's really important is it doesn't matter how fast the car goes, it matters how fast the car stops. So that indeed was a safety thing, and not for nothing, if everything went my way, I would have very soon had issues with the rear brake again and been in the same boat, but this time I could have done it myself. Now, was that in the cards? The answer is yes. The guy said, if you want to do the brakes yourself, you can take the car and come back, and you have time to do that. But I am not going to be out there in 13 degrees doing brakes. Okay? I'm just not. All right? I got to pick and choose my battles as far as that goes. Because I'm not going to be out there freezing the fuck out of myself to get these brakes done. Was there a reprieve? What did it get up to 35? Better than 13, but not any kind of great shakes. You know, if it's March and it's 50 degrees, yeah, I could do that. Still won't like it, but I could do it. So it was sort of an expensive lesson. Another option I would have had was to let the inspection expire and waited till the weather was warm enough to do the brakes myself and then bring it in. But then what about the check engine light that's going to come back? That hasn't after 3 weeks. That I still don't understand. And it's not cold out now. I don't have the answers to that. You know, it's I can't. This was just almost a comedy of errors. There were so many things that went wrong through this entire thing. But of course, in the end, it all works out like an episode of Leave It to Beaver, or more modernly, Full House, or more modernly, or Fuller House, where everything always works out at the end of the episode, you know? I hate those shows. No, actually, I like Leave It to Beaver. Full House was... We had cool guys on there, and we lost Bob Saget, and Dave Coulier's not doing so hot these days, but I guess Jesse and the Rippers will have to pick up the slack on that. Yeah, anyway, it was a time when Full House was on. And as far as Full House goes, never watched it. No inclination to do that, but yeah, pretty bad. The reboots were not a great idea. It clearly showed that America was in dire straits, and I do feel that that was probably due to the economy, and we were just fucking out of ideas and at our wits' end. So we said, let's do something that worked in the past. Then, of course, you get somebody else say, why couldn't we get the president to do that? He's still asleep. He's gone now. Just saying, we don't do politics here, but he's gone. Somebody else is in office now. Somebody else is in office now. So all I'm saying is somebody else is there because he decided to drop out. We're not going to talk about the dementia at all because he certainly doesn't remember it. Just saying. Okay? Anyway, yeah, this kind of sucked. But in the end, like I said, it all worked out. And I'm none too thrilled, but you got to do what you got to do. Julio should have said, you need rear rotors as well. And if I would have replaced them, it would have cost, we're going to guess, $130, $150 more then to save how much I paid this time. And that's just parts cost. This place, you know, I gotta say, they were honest, and it is what it is, and life goes on, but what a lesson to learn. That sucked. It really just comes down to kind of bad luck and maybe not having a white guy working on it. Still bringing the car to Julio, though. Because he does it a lot cheaper. And I bring my own parts, so... Still going to Julio for things. I lost on this one. It is what it is. Alright. Enough babbling bullshit with Jay. Thanks so much for sticking with me through this entire video. I really, really appreciated. Make sure you click like. Make sure you click subscribe. And take care. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.